you know, we outgrow things, our tastes change, and it's a shame to waste the yarn. And so now, a new yarn, ready for a new project. Hello, knitting friends. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Kristen, and today I have a traditional podcast episode for you. So grab some coffee or tea or your beverage of choice, and let's jump in. I've got finished objects, I have several whips, and I've got some acquisitions, plus some design stuff. So it's a big one this week. All right, friends, let's jump right in with finished objects because as you can see, I have a finished object. I have finished my Cozycottagecardi. I will go ahead and put a little bit of B-roll in here so you can see this better. But it is done and I am so excited. I absolutely love it. All right, so Cozycottagecardi, this is a pattern by Anne Catherine Stoll, and I knit this in Concept by Katya Pure Organic Wool. So this is a 100% organic wool, and the structure of this yarn is a chainette. So it is a really light and airy. So I knit the size 2, which has, it says a finished bust circumference around 54 inches, but with an open front, it's sort of hard to tell. And that gives me nearly 20 inches of positive ease. I suspect my finished sweater did not actually come out to be 54 inches, although you can see it is pretty wide. But the total yardage for this was over 1,200 yards, and it still feels so nice and light. So I'm going to see if I can just pull the yarn apart a little bit for you, so you can see how this structure works. So I know it's very hard, but as you can see when I pull it apart, that instead of just twisting around each other, they are sort of looped. The different plies are looped more around each other. You can't just pull it apart like you would for a normal ply. And so the result is that this is just really light and airy. There's a lot of air trapped in the yarn. So even though this is I believe they classify it as a worsted weight, I would say a little bit closer to bulky, so definitely an Aran. It is really nice and light. So I absolutely love it in this project. It is so comfortable. It is so soft. I wasn't sure how to do with this now. I wasn't sure how I was going to block out. I was a little bit worried it was going to overstretch. It didn't. It definitely did stretch. That also has a lot to do with the stitch patterns in the sweater. So it did grow quite a bit, especially lengthwise, but it didn't overstretch. It didn't, it's retaining, a lot of nice structure. The cables look good. They're popping nicely. So I've been really happy with this yarn. This yarn was gifted to me by Katya. There is an affiliate link in the description box if you would like to check it out yourself. So this color is, threw that away too quickly. This color is 50. And I believe it's like cream or off-white or something like that. It doesn't come in like a ton of colors, but I want to say there's, I don't know, a dozen and a half colors. And just love this. So light and fluffy. Lots of air. This is so comfortable. So as far as modifications to the pattern, I did make the sleeves a bit longer. It's a little hard to tell how long you want to make your sleeves because there's going to be a lot of growth in this part as well as the sleeve. So when I had knit the pattern up until it said I should stop for the sleeves, they maybe were like here. And I knew it would grow, but I just wasn't sure how much. So I went ahead, I added 2 more repeats of the main cable. Then I did work the cuff, but before binding off, I just put it on hold and I did a mid-project block because it has a nice Italian bind off. which I did not want to have to pick out if it was not long enough and I needed to knit more. But I did go ahead and knit the cuff because I thought if it only needs another inch, I'll just make the cuff longer. But once it was blocked, it grew, I mean, I would say it grew a good 6 inches. But again, that's the sleeve length and the width of this part that grows. And because this is, it's a cable and then a half fisherman's rib, the half fisherman's rib grows a lot. So regardless of what yarn you use, this is probably going to grow a fair bit. I would definitely suggest, if you're interested in this pattern, do the button band. There's no buttons. It doesn't have buttonholes. It's just a band. And one sleeve, and then do a mid-project block. So the button bands do sort of restrict the stretchiness of the front panels. And then again, the sleeves are going to grow, and you want to make sure that you don't end up with like super long sleeves, but at the same time, once you have finished and knit to the pattern specifications, they will look insanely short. So the other thing I would recommend for this pattern is, I believe I've mentioned this before, but because of the gauge difference between the cables and the half fisherman's rib, there are short rows throughout the whole pattern. So like it's a 6-row repeat basically, but 2 of those rows are a row short rows and then a row resolving the short rows. For the sleeves, I would really recommend that you have a 16-inch circular needle in your sleeve size, because you are going back and forth with those short rows, and with resolving the short rows and doing it in magic loop was a giant pain in the butt. But I knit my sleeves on a size 9, so I believe the recommended needle for the pattern was a 10, so I went down a needle size to get gauge. A lot of times I will then go up a needle size when I start working in the round, but the sleeves were already going to be big, so I didn't do that. And it wouldn't have mattered. I didn't have a 16-inch circular needle in the size 9 or a size 10. And doing the magic loop was really unpleasant, and I think DPNs would have been worse. But so if you are interested in this pattern, make sure go ahead and get a sleeve needle, 16-inch circular. It will make your life a lot easier. So overall, I was very happy with the pattern. It was not like my preferred pattern writing style, but it was very clear. The only thing I will say is working the short rows in the half fisherman's rib. It's a little tricky, and I think a video tutorial of how she did the short rows would have been really helpful. So following her directions, I tried, different ways of, so basically the short rows. For a German short row, what you will normally do is turn, you will slip a stitch and then pull the yarn to distort the stitch into looking kind of like 2 stitches on the needle. However, because you are working in a half fisherman's rib, you're already slipping that purl stitch without working it. So you can't really do the German short row. So she had you add in a yarn over. And then the technique for adding the yarn over along with the slipped stitch, I tried a couple different ways. Ultimately it worked, but I would have liked to have seen a video of exactly how she did it, rather than kind of futzing around with it. So I do think that would be helpful, but it wasn't absolutely necessary. It turned out fine in the end, and I am so happy with my finished sweater. It is so cozy. I do still need it today. It is 52 degrees. So probably, normally this is the time of year I'm starting to get ready to put my sweaters away for the warm weather, but I might keep this one out for the summer. I think this is going to make a nice, because it is a little bit open. You can see with the half fisherman's rib, that part is more open than obviously the cables. So there's a little bit of air moving through, and it's such an airy yarn. I think this might make a nice sweater to have around in the summer for when, there's too much air conditioning or anything else that might be going on. The rare kind of chilly day that we sometimes get, like kind of at the end of August, to remind us that fall is coming. I think this will be a nice sweater to have around for the summer, so I might not pack this one away. I'm just really happy with it. It is beautiful. I love the double knit button band. So you'll remember last month I was finishing up my calm down cardigan, but the double knit button band on that one is like 2 inches wide and it was so slow. This one is like a half an inch wide maybe, and it moved much more quickly and it really does look beautiful. So one finished object, Cozycottagecardi. Again, this is a pattern by Anne Catherine Stoll. Love it. It's beautiful. Probably going to be my new go-to cardi, easy to throw on and match with everything. So, a finished object to start off our video. Not only do I have a finished sweater, but I have almost a second finished sweater. So, my Gwynver just needs the rest of a sleeve. And obviously to weave in the ends. So this is a pattern by the Knit Pearl Girl, and I am knitting this in Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. I have blocked this sleeve and most of the body of the sweater. You can kind of see at the bottom, probably about this much has not been blocked. So I stopped it around here to do a mid-project block just to see how much it was going to grow. I knew it was going to grow a lot width-wise. I wasn't sure length-wise. And I wanted to make sure I got the right body length. And so I'm glad I did. At the point at which I stopped it, I really only needed about 2 or 3 more inches of the main body pattern. And that's why our ribbing is not looking particularly beautiful right now, because that part has not been blocked. So I just have to finish my second sleeve. So I am 100% expecting this to be done by the end of the month. Am I going to get a chance to wear it? I don't know. This is a pretty hefty sweater. The wool of the Andes is, if you aren't familiar with it, a little bit more on the rustic side. It's definitely very warm. It's more of a light worsted, I would say. And getting into April, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, the dog is up here today and she's being extra weird. You can lay on there. So, but I'm not sure if this is going to be wearable in April or not. The weather is going to be a complete crapshoot, so who knows? Love the back of this. Again, it's just a mirror. Again, not my favorite pattern writing style, but certainly is very clear, there's very little room for questions. Everything is spelled out very clearly. And what I really have loved about knitting this one is that everything is very easy to memorize. So you have to follow the charts a little bit for setting up initially. And then once you have, because you're increasing here, and she's, as you're increasing, you're starting each of these stitch patterns. So, while that's happening, you need to pay attention to the chart. But once everything is established, you can just go. Each individual stitch pattern is very easy to memorize. So, very close to finishing this one. Very excited, but probably not going to get a lot of wear before the weather gets warm, but we shall see. So the color I am using for this is Opal Heather. I think it's really beautiful. You can see it's a blue with sort of purple all shot through it, just like an opal. Looks beautiful. I don't think I made any modifications to this at all. It's just a very well written pattern. It's not supposed to have like some very precise shaping. It's supposed to be kind of oversized. So I didn't really feel the need to make any adjustments. I loved all of the details that she included. There's this It's a folded collar. It has a lateral braid at the base of the collar. Love the stitch patterns. Okay, I don't love the, I like how the, whatever, double moss stitch, seed stitch, whatever this is, I love how it looks. I don't enjoy knitting it, but I do love how it looks. So yeah, this was really nothing fancy going on here. No major changes. Uh, Relatively, again, easy to memorize. No super advanced techniques here, and this is going to be a great, super cozy sweater. This is not one I'm going to keep around for the summer. Definitely not that kind of sweater, but going to be so great to pull out in the fall. So yeah, definitely expecting to have this done. Today is the 25th. So that means I have got 6 more days just to finish that one sleeve. Definitely thinking this is going to be done for the end of the month. The other major project I've been working on is my Ronnie, I don't know, vest by Irene Lynn, which I absolutely adore. I think it's looking so gorgeous. So the entire back is done, and then I have started on the left front. So of course, this is a vest. There are no sleeves. However, the sides are basically just kind of seamed up a little bit at the underarm, and then it's a very deep split. So there's no knitting in the round here. As I said before, this one I can memorize, the central cable, this part, this cable. I haven't been able to memorize this stitch pattern. So I do need to keep the chart on hand for this, which I guess is slowing me down a little bit. The nice part for this left front, as you can see, is that it is tiny. There's a very deep V-neck, so there's not a whole lot of fabric going on here at the front. So now I am just working the neck and armhole increases. I don't know what I want to do with this one. This is being knit in Kim Dye's Yarns Brioche DK plus 2 strands of the Knit Picks Aloft. This is going to be a really warm, and you can see it's so fuzzy. This is going to be really warm. And this one's obviously not going to be done by the end of this month. Maybe I could finish it up in April, but then is it going to be too warm? Probably. So should I just maybe put it away for the fall? I can't decide. So I don't know what I want to do with this. I'm definitely going to at least finish the upper left front. And then we'll see. I kind of hesitate to put it away for the fall because I'm afraid I won't pick it up again. Because fall will come and I'll be so excited about all the new sweaters and things. But I don't know how motivated I'm going to be to work on it when it's warm and knowing that I'm not going to be wearing this anytime soon. It's just too warm, too floof. Definitely a very fall winter piece, not something that is going to really transition into the spring. So this one, again, I'm not really making any modifications that I remember. This part, originally, I thought this was double knitting, but it's actually just the edge is double knit, and then the rest is ribbing, which is nice because as we discussed with the Calm Down cardigan, those wide, and this is very short, but still that wide double rib, double knitting can take a while. So it's really just the edge. And that was a nice surprise after all of the double knitting of the Calm Down cardigan button band. I didn't really want to do that again quite so soon. So I don't know. Loving the project. I love the yarn. It's so beautiful. I love the color. You can see right here, there's a line. I don't care. As I was talking about in my knitting confessions, I never alternate skeins. I just do not care enough. I don't think anybody is going to be, paying that close attention. It looks much more distinct on the camera than it looks in real life. It's so soft and fluffy. I love that. But I'm not sure where that's going moving forward. We shall see. Oh, the color for the Kim Dye's yarn is Lady Slipper. I don't know if she is still dyeing this or not. I just love that. Almost like gray, but then you get close and you can see all the different colors in there. And then the other whip I've mainly been working on, so I do have like a pair of socks. But the other main whip that I've been working on doesn't really look like mine. Oh my God, it's so green. This is a Manhattan hat that I cast on for my oldest son. So this is a ball of Wool Dreamers Moda, which is a lovely kind of rustic but still soft yarn. And my oldest son, who is 13, several years ago told me he wanted me to teach him to knit. I suspected that this was not going to last long, but I went ahead and bought him a couple of things, and he specifically picked out this color yarn. And as you might imagine, his interest in learning to knit faded pretty quickly. But we still had this ball of yarn. So it was just sitting there, and I thought, he picked it out. Why don't I cast on something for him if he's not going to use it? If he suddenly decides he wants to knit again, we can always, get more yarn. But this is just sitting around. So this is something that I will knit now and then put away for Christmas. So the pattern is the Manhattan Hat by Tori Yu, and right now it looks like nothing because right now I am working 12 inches of 1x1 rib to make the triple fold brim or double fold brim, triple layered double fold. I figured we've got enough yarn, I may as well. I also like that because I prefer the inside of my ribbing to the outside. I just think it looks nicer. Come on, let's focus. There, yeah. So I just think the inside looks, and so that'll be what's facing out with the folded brim. I also I did an alternating cable cast on, I believe, for this. I did not do a tubular cast on because, again, if you fold the brim twice, that's always going to be on the inside. So there was really no point in doing the fancy cast on. So as I said, 12 inches of 1x1 rib. And then the fun part of this is really all of the shaping that's going to be happening in the crown. So what is this, like 7 inches maybe? I got a little ways to go. This has been my car knitting, waiting at the bus stop or waiting at doctor's appointments or whatever. This eye-searing chartreuse color. Yeah, easy to pick up. Just knit a few rounds. I don't have to pay attention at all. But I do hope I get to the crown shaping soon because that is where all the fun stuff is happening. So that is the last major whip that I have been working on this month to show you guys. All right, so probably at the later part of 2025, I had done a roundup video with tiny scarf patterns because tiny scarves seem to be all the rage. And at the time, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't really see myself wearing them. I don't know what weather they would be appropriate for. And that is still true. However, I got this idea in my head and it just was birthed into a tiny scarf. So this is an upcoming tiny scarf pattern. I just used some stash yarn for this. So I used the main yarn is, I believe it's discontinued, but it's just a single ply fingering weight from Wool & Boone. And the colorway is called Thistle. And then I paired this with the Amano Yarns Uma that I used for my Lilith pullover last year and still have some of. So Here they are. I still have some of this left. I've also used this before for a hat or something. Still have some of this left. This really uses very little yarn. So my little sample here is about 39 inches. And let me see if I can kind of fold this without messing up my microphone. And that's long enough to just give you a little fold around the neck. I still don't know if and when I would wear this, but I really like the way that the yarns were together, the stitch patterns. It was a really fun, quick little project. So it used, I don't know, maybe 150 yards of the fingering weight and 100 yards of the lace weight. So you can see up close the stitch patterns. I've got a nice neat edge on both sides, and then there's just a little shaping to make the two ends pointy, and there we go. So I'm going to be publishing this pattern in April. It is currently in testing, and yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping maybe I will have a chance to actually wear this in April, maybe for Easter. I don't know. It's a little early to know what our Easter weather is going to be like. Also, we're just going to kind of hang out at my dad's house, so I don't really like I need to be dressed up or anything. I don't know if I'll get much wear out of it, but it was just a really fun little project. So I thought maybe for people who aren't interested in little scarves, it could also make a cute headband. So I started making this little headband version. So this one has an I-cord that you would tie at the back. I am using some leftover Equinox Sport from Magpie Fibers. And for this one, so the scarflet I knit on a US 4. For this one, I went down to a 3 because this is a silk and linen. It's a little slippery. So yeah, obviously the main pattern looks mostly the same, but we don't have any fuzzy lace weight yarn. So it looks a little bit more distinct. And yeah, I thought this might be a cute headband idea as well. So we will see. I just cast on the headband one yesterday. So, you know, I want it to, you know, tie under at the back of your neck. So I still have quite a bit of knitting to do on this one, but I thought maybe offer, you know, this, there's really no difference between the two other than this is knit in the kind of plant fiber. I don't want wool messing up my hair. So this would be more summery since we are getting into warmer weather, and then it just has an I-cord tie, and that will be at both ends. So yeah, I do have a name for this. Don't remember what it is. So I will put it here, and you can be looking for this pattern. Just a quick little project in hopefully early April. As I said, I really had a lot of fun just kind of putting it together. It's very easy to memorize. Once you get past like sort of the initial shaping and setup, these parts are, it's a very simple eyelet pattern, and then just the dip stitch and then the edge stitches. So all very easy to memorize. I do love the idea that you can just kind of fold this up, pop it in your bag if you're wearing it and it gets warm, which is always a challenge. You know, if you've got, I don't know, you're wearing a hand knit cardigan and it's too warm for it, you hate to just kind of scrunch it up and put it in your bag, or a big shawl or something. But this, it folds up so neat and tiny, and you can, you know, just kind of roll it up, pop it right in your bag. So this is, obviously it's written for fingering weight with a lace weight, but it doesn't matter. You could use any yarn you wanted. You could use any weight. You know, obviously, if you are using a different yarn, a heavier yarn, you're going to get a wider scarf, and the fabric will vary depending on the content of your yarn. But overall, there is not a whole lot to have to worry about in terms of gauge, as long as you like the fabric. That's really what's going to matter most. So keep an eye out for that next month. We are moving into warmer weather, so obviously I need some warm weather yarns for some warm weather projects. So I do have a few acquisitions to show you. So I officially have, if you watched last week's video, somewhere around here, where I talk about my spring plans, I had 3 definites, 3 maybes, 3 long shots. So I officially have all of the yarn for my 3 definites. So the one I showed you before is this Dilly Dally here, which is going to be for my Margot top. Next up, I got some yarn for my Penelope top. This is a pattern by Sari Nordland that requires a fingering weight plant-based yarn. So I got this lovely Lindy chain from Knit Picks. This colorway is called Clarity. This is another chainette yarn, so kind of like this one, but I think with the chainette yarn with the so this is 70% linen, 30% Pima cotton. Those are more slippery than the wool. So I have seen some people saying you have to be careful about the yarn trying to kind of like unravel itself. So that's definitely something I will be watching out for with this one. I haven't used this one before. I've definitely used plenty of cotton, linen, silk blends. This does look on kind of the thinner side for does look a bit on the thinner side for fingering weight, but we will see. If you want to hear my thoughts on that and the top I have planned for this, you have to watch the spring plans video. I don't want to get into it too much and repeat, but I'm looking forward to trying this one, although this would be the 3rd in the 3 definite projects that I want to do for warm weather, so it'll be a little bit. The next one, which I haven't shown in any videos yet, is that I got the yarn for my lavender tank top. So the lavender pattern is by Along Avec Anna. It calls for a 100% wool. I did not want to use a 100% wool because I would just never wear a 100% wool sleeveless top. But I didn't want to get totally plant fibers because I think the structure of the fabric would end up being different. So I wanted to get a blend, a wool cotton blend. I originally wanted to get the Sandisgarn Duo. Unfortunately, it's a little bit out of my budget right now, but I have come up with an alternative, and that is this Happy Place from Hobby. I don't know. I still don't know how to pronounce it. Somebody please tell me in the comments how to pronounce it. So this is their collaboration with TL Yarn Crafts, and it is a 50-50 wool cotton blend. And the lavender tank top is, of course, a don't you dare fall, a chevron patterned tank top. So I do have several colors. The shipping for the hobby yarn is so fast. That is coming from what, like Denmark? And it still gets here in less than a week. It gets here faster than Knit Picks. I don't know. I don't know what magic they're working. So even with whatever duties may be in place, this ended up being about $30 cheaper than it would have been if I had used the Sandisgarn Duo. And these are the colors that I got. So this one here is my main color. And if you look at the original sample, she's got 2 colors that are really close. So that's these first 2. And then 2, like a medium and a dark color. Now, obviously you can use these in any order that you want, as much as you want. So my plan is to use just a little bit of the darkest color because I do want this to kind of be a springy, a springy looking pattern. I don't want a whole lot of dark, bringing it down, but I did want to have enough of a contrast. So these colors are, I don't remember if they have names. Do you have names, or do you just have numbers? I feel like they have names on the website, but right here they just have numbers. So this one, I want to say is, okay, one of these 2 was called Glacier. And I'm pretty sure this one was called Aubergine or Eggplant or something. And then this one was Coal. Color numbers are 25, 24, 23, and this one is 18. So I'm really happy with this pairing for the pattern. Still a little sad I'm not getting to try the Santa Scarn. I haven't used a lot of their yarns. I think the only one I have used and still haven't even finished a project in it is the Pure Ghent, and I really would like to try some of their other yarns, but we will see how this one works up. Again, it's a 50-50 wool cotton, so definitely this is not something I'm going to be wearing in like the super heat of summer, but should work for more transitional weather. And I really love this color. This one's my favorite. And we'll see how we go. But I've got at least 3 projects worth of yarn for warm weather knits. Now, I don't have any other actual acquisitions, but I did want to share this sort of little yarny project I did with you, which is that I have reclaimed some yarn. So some number of years ago, I knit this Ursina in Knit Picks City Tweed Heavy Worsted, which is discontinued now. And it is I believe it's a wool cotton or a merino alpaca blend, as I recall. And I wasn't wearing that sweater anymore. I originally made it with very little ease and have gained some weight, since then. And I had originally made it pretty cropped and probably too cropped. And I had never cared for the ease in the sleeves. So finally I decided, so I gave my sister a bag of, sweaters I wasn't using anymore, and, told her to pick anything that she wanted and then just send the rest back to me. And I decided to go ahead and reclaim that yarn. So now I have all of this discontinued yarn in a really beautiful, I love this white, slightly gray tweed. I reclaimed most of the yarn. So I think I kind of left the yoke behind because that is where, there was most of the wear was under the arms and stuff. But I was able to reclaim most of it, and I have enough for, I think I'm going to make this into a Hebrides hood. This is a pattern by Coco More Knitwear, Cheryl Mokhtari. And obviously not now because this is not the time of year for it, but I'm excited to basically have a whole project's worth of yarn. I don't remember how much it is exactly. I want to say about 500 yards. I did weigh it out at some point and measure it so I would know what I had enough for. But, I wasn't wearing that sweater and it was just sitting around. The only thing is that I did a reel, and I'll put a link to that in the description box in case you want to watch it. The only thing is I pulled the yarn out of the sweater and wound it up on my niddy knotty, and then the resulting hank of yarn was too big to put on my Swift. So as you can see, I had to hand wind these. I need to get a new niddy knotty to make if I plan to do this with other things. But I do want to try to do this more while our projects are made to last and meant to last. We outgrow things, our tastes change, and it's a shame to waste the yarn. And so now, new yarn, ready for a new project. So that's a kind of an acquisition. All right, friends, that is pretty much everything I have to share with you today. Links to everything that I've talked about can be found in the description box down below. I will also come back retroactively and include the link to the scarflet pattern once that is published in probably 1 or 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, found it entertaining or educational, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, new knitting videos here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you soon in another video. Bye. This up. Come on, here we go. What did you see today? Did you see that big St. Bernard? We just saw this enormous St. Bernard. She was terrified. And now we are practically running back home.